Steve Bannon is only halfway through his 4-month prison sentence, which, let's be honest, 4 months is not the, longest time in the world. But even though he's only 2 months into the 4-month sentence, halfway there, his lawyers late last week decided to ask the judge to please go ahead and let Mr. Bannon out of prison because he's still appealing the verdict against him. Now, that argument does not make much sense considering the fact that a 3-judge panel on the Court of Appeals already ruled back in May, you can't delay this anymore. You've already delayed it roughly 2 years since your conviction. Actually, I think more than 2 years since your conviction. So you gotta go. You can still appeal it and then we can have it scrubbed off your record. But your buddy Peter Navarro was already in jail at the time. It's time for you to go ahead and serve your sentence. The 3-judge panel had already decided that. Judge Carl Nichols, by the way, a Trump appointee who had overseen the entire case, agreed, and he sent Bannon to prison, he reported in early July. So here we are, early September now, and Bannon's lawyers told the judge last week, quote, Mr. Bannon's case presents compelling circumstances because of the subsequent developments discussed above, namely the realistic prospect that the D.C. court will grant en banc or issue dissents from denial on the core issue in this case, either of which would demonstrate this case raises substantial issues and that Mr. Bannon should not have to serve his entire sentence, blah, blah, blah. They don't care about what the full panel's going to say. Here's why they're doing this. In case you haven't noticed, Donald Trump's presidential campaign has really gone to hell since Steve Bannon went to prison. And I know that his campaign didn't go to hell because Steve Bannon went to prison, but everything for Donald Trump really did start to go pretty bad when Steve Bannon went to prison, okay? There's a correlation, but there is not a causation there. But either way, Steve Bannon thinks he can help Trump, but he can't help Trump from behind bars. So Steve Bannon needs to get out of jail so he can go back to his podcast and go out there and help Donald Trump, have regular phone calls with him to give him advice and give him strategies. And that's why Steve Bannon wants to get out of jail right now. Because think about it. You're already halfway through. At this point, you're more than halfway through, dude. You got less than 2 months to go. Why not just finish it out, get out a week before the election, and then you're done? Then it doesn't matter what happens with your appeals. If you win or if you lose, you're not going to go back to jail. You will have served your time. So it doesn't make sense to try to cut it in half and serve the other part later. And I know Steve Bannon knows that doesn't make sense. But it does make sense when you look at it through the lens of Steve Bannon desperately wants to get out of prison so that he can save Donald Trump's campaign. When Bannon did go to jail, a lot of us on the left were talking about the fact that Donald Trump just lost one of his most powerful voices. And he did. But even at that time, none of us could have predicted the dramatic changes that were going to happen in this presidential race in the month of July alone. Right? Like as soon as Steve Bannon goes to jail, Donald Trump has the attempted assassination at his rally. He then has a pathetic RNC, picks J.D. Vance as his running mate. Biden drops out of the race. Harris jumps in, raises $550 million in July alone. Everything went horrible for Donald Trump. And again, it's not because Steve Bannon went to prison. It just happens to correlate to the time that Steve Bannon went to prison. But honestly, at this point, letting Steve Bannon out a little bit early is not going to help Trump's campaign. I know Bannon thinks it will, but at this point, dude, that ship is already halfway under the seas. You can't go there and start bailing out the water now. The damage is done, the ship is going down, and you're going to sit in prison for another 2 months. Hi, everyone. This here is little Athena. And Athena would like to know why you haven't subscribed to Fair and Balanced yet. So please, don't let Athena down. Subscribe today.